Hello everyone, today I want to do something kind of different compared to the content I normally do. Today I want to sit down and discuss an opinion that I've been seeing going around in the Siege community for a very long time that I disagree with heavily, and that is the idea that Ubisoft should remove yellow ping on cameras. This is something that has been brought up many times over the years by content creators and pro players over the years, but more recently it's become an even more debated topic. Kudos just recently posted on Twitter that if there was one thing that he could remove from Siege right now, it would be yellow pings on cameras. The reason he believes that is because he believes it rewards players with undeserved kills, and that's because of the fact that yellow ping is silent. It doesn't give any warning to the enemies that are getting pinged and allows you to get away with making more precise callouts without actually having to know the callouts on a map. You can just say, hey, there's a guy on yellow ping, and you can get a kill that way. And this is an argument that isn't new, as I discussed. Pingu even recently replied to the same tweet that Kudos was replying to, saying the exact same thing. He believes that yellow ping is the problem and it's the most damaging thing in the game right now for its balancing. This obviously is a very strong take, and I've disagreed with this for a very long time. No Limit made a post last year on this topic, and I responded by saying that Siege is the only game where people have an issue with a simple pinging system, and I don't know why. Players seem to think that yellow ping is a problem because they feel like it lowers the skill gap of communication, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but I would argue that that lowering of the skill gap is necessary. Siege already has an extremely high skill gap. If you compare Siege to games like Valorant, Counter-Strike, and any other competitive shooters in a similar niche as Siege, all of their maps are not nearly as complex as Siege. They don't have nearly as much depth in their characters as Siege does, and there's not nearly as much to learn. So expecting players to be able to make in-depth callouts in those games is a little bit less of an ask. However, in Siege, there's mechanics like vertical play, which isn't present in those games that I mentioned, and there's also destruction, which isn't present in those games that I mentioned. And so for players to be able to accurately use those capabilities effectively, they need to be able to have some sort of pinging system to be able to coordinate as a team. However, I think yellow ping on cameras specifically also has additional benefits outside of just helping newer players. It also helps to deal with things like communication barriers. If you're playing in Europe or Asia, where there's multiple different languages compiled into a single region, being able to communicate with yellow pings on cameras can give your teammates some sort of information that they can react off of rather than nothing. A lot of players will counteract this argument by saying that yellow pings without any sort of call out doesn't really do anything. However, I would disagree. If you see a teammate frantically yellow pinging a position, you're most likely going to assume that there is a player in that spot. And it's pretty easy to figure that out, and I've experienced that firsthand in solo queue. And it'll be pretty crucial information that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Also, I don't think not knowing that you're being pinged on a camera is necessarily a flaw or a bad thing. If you're allowing the enemy team to get enough drones into the bomb site or into locations where you're playing to where they're being able to get exact yellow pings on you and you have no idea, then you've made multiple mistakes along the way. The defense has tons of anti-drone capabilities that they can use to their disposal to deal with this situation. And also, if you're just not watching the entrances of the bomb site and you let a drone drive in and get into a good position, then that's your fault. But this is something that the people who advocate for yellow ping getting removed wholeheartedly agree with. They believe that not being able to know when you're getting pinged is a huge issue. For example, they would argue that if you're playing on the kitchen bomb site on Emerald Plains, an enemy can drive a drone into the bomb site and hide it under a counter or something, and then be able to ping you while you're playing inside the bomb site constantly to their teammate, which then allow you to get either shot through the soft wall, or it can cause you to get shot vertically as well. And this isn't something that is a defender exclusive issue either. They'd also make this argument for the attack as well. You know, the defense could throw a Valkyrie camera up in some random corner of some random room like pool table on Emerald Plains here, and then they could use that camera to then make pings on an attacker entering the building, and then they could use those pings to then pre-fire that enemy through the wall and get a free kill. And so a lot of players who have problems with yellow pings in general feel like this is unfair because it allows you to make way more precise callouts that wouldn't be possible without yellow ping, and because it gives you free kills that most players wouldn't be able to get without this capability because their communication skills would be significantly hindered. However, I think most people don't realize that removing yellow ping would likely cause an even bigger issue. If you remove yellow ping from Rainbow Six Siege, it's going to cause a lot of people to just give up on communication altogether. We all know that in solo queue, it's pretty common to come up against a team that's not talking at all, or that's only using yellow pings to communicate. And if you remove yellow pings from the game, a lot of players who don't know all the in-depth callouts of every map are just going to give up on giving callouts altogether. They're no longer going to go, hey, there's a guy on ping, and instead they're just not going to give you callouts at all. And in those situations, it's going to be extremely frustrating. Additionally, removing yellow ping is going to have unwanted side effects on certain operators. Operators like Valkyrie, who to excel at being able to nitro players from below using their cameras are going to take a big hit because of this nerf. And pretty much any other operator that has a gadget around cameras is going to suffer massively from this, because the only way you're going to be able to excel with a camera is if you have in-depth callouts for each position. And in a lot of circumstances in Siege, even if you do have in-depth callouts for each position on a map, they're not universal. There are a lot of callouts where in different regions or in different communities, there are massively different callouts for the same position. And when you start degrading a team's ability to communicate, it's going to de-incentivize teamwork, and they're going to start playing extremely aggressive, and we're going to get pushed into an even more aggressive gunfight heavy meta. But even taking those issues out of the way, I don't think that this is a very popular opinion. I think this is just something that comes from players who play at an extremely high level that kind of get used to playing at that level, and they don't really understand what lower ranked players or normal players have to go through. Just recently, I did a poll on my channel discussing whether yellow ping should be removed from the game, and overwhelmingly people voted against it. Obviously, this is only 2.3 thousand votes, which is not a significant amount, but it's definitely worth noting. And I think some of the people in the comments brought up good points. For example, Cody Layton said the following: "This feels like the recent Capcan arguments. Just because the tools are powerful doesn't mean it's not your fault when you lose to them. If you fail to clear cams and traps, you will be spotted by cams and step on traps. Those are intended consequences of playing sloppily, not the systems being broken." And I 100% agree with him. And Yago also responds saying, "Intel games should be one of the strongest things in the game. Players shouldn't get a warning of when they are pinged. They should take care of the possibility of being observed. They have a lot of tools and ways to get rid of enemy info. Also, information should be shared to the team the easiest way possible, because the true strategic value and skill comes from how you react to the info your team gained, not from the precision of sharing that info between teammates." And I agree with this. The biggest thing that should separate players is their ability to react off of information, not their ability to gather the information in the first place. And also, as he brought up, yellow ping just makes the game better and more unique at almost every level of play. Without yellow ping, a lot of cool plays wouldn't be possible, and the game would be dumbed down to a more barbaric level, because most players back in the old days before yellow ping was in the game didn't know all the in-depth callouts. They just knew the individual room callout. And so because of that, before yellow ping, players' ability to communicate was significantly hindered, and so teamwork was a lot less advanced. Either way, show love to Kudos and Pingu. They're both great content creators, and they have contributed heavily to the Siege community as a whole. I'm not by any means hating on them. I just wanted to discuss this topic because I think the yellow pings discussion is quite interesting, and I think this debate is important to help Ubisoft come to a conclusion. Now, speaking of conclusions, what do I think Ubisoft can do about this? Well, I think there are a couple of changes that Ubisoft could present as potentially a middle ground between my position and people like Kudos and Pingu's position. Firstly, Ubisoft could add in an audio cue to cameras whenever they give off a yellow ping. This is something they experimented with in the test servers, and it's something that I've seen a lot in comments related to posts on this that I think would be a positive change and would help to balance yellow ping a little bit, because then players could still use it as a communication tool, but experienced players would still have a way to counter it. And if that isn't enough, they could also potentially add a limit on how many yellow pings each camera had. So let's say throughout the duration of a round, your Valkyrie camera, you could only yellow ping with it a total of, 5 times throughout the entire round. So it would force players to be more smart with their yellow pings. I've seen that idea thrown around, and I do think it's a decent suggestion. The only issue with that would be that your randoms could potentially end up wasting your yellow pings on absolutely nothing, which would then cause a lot of frustration with the camera system. But in general, I think those two changes could be a potential solution to help bridge the gap between the less experienced portions of the community and the more experienced ones. But let me know what you guys think about yellow ping in the comments down below, because I'm honestly interested to hear your guys' thoughts on it. And anyways, that's going to wrap up today's video. If you'd like me to make more videos like this where I discuss my opinions on certain topics related to Rainbow Six Siege, I'd definitely be open to doing it, so let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. If you want to watch another video just like this one, a video will be popping up on your screen right now that I'm sure y'all enjoy. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.